Hey YouTube, this is Pooch1039 and today I've bought Molotov burner from a man on the street. Yeah, he said this is the best marker. See? Molotov burner. Yeah, so I'll show you a quick review on it. See? This is the marker. My friends tell me that this is a fake, but I don't believe them. I think this is a very nice marker, and I'll show you my sick hand style. Yeah, I'll show you. Yeah, it's sick, mad sick, mad sick. Yeah, I don't think I'm a toy, you know. I'm just trying. Yeah, so what do you like on my tag? Yeah, I'll show you more tag. My name is Kerumb. I'll show you Kerumb. Kerumb, yeah. This is dope shit.